Well, guys, this video will explain the reason why they say the laborers normally they be want to strike for Nigeria, and the reason why they want to strike because things are just too expensive. Nobody is saying that. Nobody is doing anything about this fuel subsidy. Nobody is thinking about the poor masses in Nigeria. Even the poor masses, are they even thinking about themselves? Do they even know? Like some people, they don't even know where they are going. It hurts me to see that a lot of Nigerians youths, they don't really know the kind of situation they are finding themselves. Well, take a look at this news where they will analyze things to you. I hope you get some understanding from it.
Immediate attention in order to stabilize and also with a smooth implementation of the subsidy removal, especially on palliatives and so many hanging issues that were already discussed with Mr. President, which we are going to carry over from here. So now, for the period of about 2 weeks, so that we can address those issues and bring it back again for further discussion.
For us in TUC, as part of the communique that we circulated a while ago, that we are also going to monitor to see how the states are implementing some of these. Because again, if we think that federal government are the ones that will implement everything, it may be a bit difficult because we know that these monies have been sent to states. How are they implementing it? So we're going to place an eye on that. And that was why in our communique we stated clearly that we are going to set up a monitoring team across the 36 states of the Federation to see how they have been implemented. If there are any states that are short-changing the Nigerian masses, we will move our arsenals to such things. So after all the deliberation, we were pushing that these things could be resolved within 7 days, but also listening to the constraints from government. Again, we also need to be pragmatic. That this week, as we know, the president is outside the country and will be returning maybe sometime weekend or early next week, and that Federal Assembly Council meeting will be held next week where some presentations will be made, and that the most reasonable time for them to get back to us is 2 weeks. So we are also going to go back to our NAC, the National Administrative Council of TUC, and also address them on the fallout of this meeting.
Two-day warning strike begins today, Rufai.
Yeah, warning strike begins today. Pretty much, when you look at the roads, it was still business as usual. I don't know if the banks that were claiming were going to join. I'm not sure the banks joined them. I'm not sure other people also, joined the strike. It doesn't look like there's a strike out there. But why are we constantly here? We're constantly here because of government. The same government that makes a lot of promises that reneges in it. And I'll tell you how. Everybody, prior to elections, clamor for the removal of subsidy. But one other thing we said is the fact that subsidy must be, one, either removed in phases, two, palliatives put in place to be able to cushion the effects. None of these two scenarios were done. Subsidy was pulled out like a carpet pulled out of the rug of the leg of Nigerians with nothing to cushion the effects. Then the agitation started by the NLC to meet with the government. But government did show bad faith in most of the conversations. We remember the 8 weeks provision they gave that they were going to negotiate. And all of a sudden, the government was not talking to NLC again and TUC until they said they were going to go on the strike. Then the quickest thing the government did was to go to the industrial court to get an injunction so that they don't go to strike. When they got that ceased for a bit. The NLC had to threaten another strike for them to be able to vacate taking them to court. Because at some point they threatened another strike and they said it was contempt because it's an earlier court decision. So we've gone ding-dong up and down for a while, and the Nigerian people continue to suffer. Yes, the argument is government have pulled out palliatives. Like the TUC chair there was talking, and he was saying, yeah, let's see how they distribute the palliatives. But the other argument as regards the palliatives is it far-reaching enough? Obviously not. When will others kick in? When will this new minimum wage for workers kick in? When will this conversation happen? So from having that 8 work weeks agreement timeline to be able to facilitate appropriate palliative, government has reneged on that. My government has also shown bad faith. What really brought this strike to the front burner was there was a call for a peace meeting, and the Minister of Labour was quoted to have gone to say some unsavory things against the Labour Congress. So they say we are going to go all out. It goes back to the question, why are we having strikes? Because government feels its responsibility. Do not get me wrong. It's not that we are not going to have challenges in trade disputes, but the government must also show good faith in all of this conversation. The government must show care and concern to the pain facing a lot of Nigerians and the workers. And you minimum wage has been argued, where have we gotten to as regards that? So we've circled round, and that's why NLC keeps saying we'll have nothing to result to but strike. The effectiveness of the strike remains to be seen. It's out there in the public. Can you see any strike? Can you see anything going on? But one thing has to be said. The government in all of this has not shown good faith. And I said that deliberately 3 times so it sinks in. And the moment we start to do it, we can start to rest these issues of public rift and rancor among government and LLC.
Well, it looks really very untidy, particularly when you consider the fact that what NLC is putting on the table is what it calls total strike for 2 days, warning strike. Second time on this same issue of removal of fuel subsidy that the Nigerian Labour Congress will be going on warning strike. There was a 2-day warning strike, which was suspended. Now this is going to be the next one. The difference between this one and the last one is that, as reported in the papers, about 52 affiliate unions connected with the NLC are part of this, including the Maritime Workers Union of Nigeria, including NOBIFIE, which is the umbrella body for banks and financial institutions, including the Joint Action for Civil Society Organizations. So, if all of these people were to down tools, imagine the implications in terms of productivity, in terms of cost for businesses and all the persons that will be involved. And this could have been avoided. It could have been avoided if government had responded appropriately to Labour. When the fuel subsidy removal was announced, Labour put, in the course of a few meetings with the federal government, a number of conditions on the table, including, reversal to status quo, antebellum, including palliatives, including investment in the education sector, including provision of alternatives like, CNG-driven fuel, repair of the refineries, and all of that. And government promised at the time that it was going to set up a tripartite committee that will address the grievances of organized labor. Up to this moment, that has not happened. What had happened after the last the last warning strike that Nigerian Labour Congress and TUC at the time embarked upon, was that the Office of the Solicitor General felt compelled to remind Labour that there was a subsisting order of the Industrial Court, which has said, look, all the parties involved should maintain the status quo and that Labour should not go on strike. And Labour then came out and said, look, next time the federal government tries to use the court to stop it from protesting on behalf of the Nigerian people, that it will not listen to it at all. And so here we are today. The only special development that we have seen is that government seems to have succeeded in dividing the ranks of organized labor. The meeting that was called for 3:30 p.m. yesterday, only the president of the Trade Union Congress showed up. The Nigerian Labour Congress did not show up. And that meeting started around 5:30. The outcome of which had been reported to me that, okay, TUC is saying it will give government another 2 weeks. Okay, what is the guarantee that within the next 2 weeks, government will be able to reach or even meet organized labor halfway on the contentious issues on the table? But in any case, that's the strategy of government, divide and rule. So today is day one of the warning strike, the 2-day warning strike. We'll see what develops. But what we know is that state branches of the NLC had also called out their people yesterday. NOBIFIE had also issued a statement. But will the strike work? Will government listen? Beyond Simon Lalong, the Minister for Labour and Employment, who have been appealing and saying government should be allowed to settle down. Well, government has spent in office already about 100 days. And he was saying, well, the ministers just came into office, they should be allowed to settle down. When are they going to settle down? And how determined is organized labor and those civil society organizations in compelling government to address the grievances of Nigerians who continue to insist that they are groaning. Now, the federal government has given 5 billion naira each to all the 36 states. Well, that in itself is curious. By what formula did the federal government arrive at the wisdom that each state deserves 5 billion naira? Lagos State of 20 million people has been given 5 billion naira. Ekiti State of maybe about 3